chúng ta không nói thẳng từ từ một sự tiếp ủng hộ cái này. Nó là như vậy, nghĩa là trong cái thầy dạy nhưng cách viết neutral. Đúng rồi, bây giờ đây là neutral rồi, và nhưng mà là đi thiên về ủng hộ. Bây giờ cũng neutral cũng thiên về cái không ủng hộ. Tại vì kết quả 1.03 nó đang không có gì thống kê, thì mình muốn đi theo là có khả năng thống kê hoặc là đi không tùy mình. Đó, bây giờ thầy đang muốn mình viết lại chuyện của mình. Và lần thì chị nhìn kết quả là chị đúng rồi. Bàn luận quan trọng là mình muốn người ta tin điều đó giống mình. Thì bây giờ thầy yêu cầu là mình viết lại là tác giả bản thân không tin. Cái câu này là tin nha. Bây giờ chuyển thành không tin. Chuyển sao? Tập viết đi. Không biết. Tại vì nó khó nhất là cũng câu đó nhưng mà thể hiện ý trái ngược. Viết ra giấy xong rồi đọc cho thầy thì sẽ biết liền. Tại vì học biết mà không biết là nguy hiểm lắm.
Well, for the result like this, 1.03 and the non-significant 95% confidence interval, you kind of have a lot of room to interpret it. The author believed there's an association, but that doesn't mean you agree, right? It could be the other way. Specifically, our result actually show the other way. Our result clearly say there's no significance. Why you actually can challenge the authors? Why do you still believe there's an association?
Sorry, Kevin.
Yes.
In meeting chat have chị Phượng Hồng ơi, chị mở mic lên chị đọc cho thầy nghe đi chị, bởi vì thầy đang giảng thầy không có nghe được. Chị Phượng Hồng ơi.
Dạ nghe. Em nghe đây.
Dạ chị đọc lên cho thầy nghe chị nhé.
I revised it into a simple sentence like there is no significant association between living in the PIC and lung cancer mortality risk.
Yeah, that's a way, and then you probably want to put the result that RR equal to 1.03.
Yeah.
Straight ball. So you see that it's a straight ball. I don't care. I just tell you there's no association. Very firm and say, yeah, that's one way. Super firm. I say there's no association. There's no significant high risk. Sorry, you just said that. Did not have a significant high risk. Yeah, straight ball. And then Duk Tai Dei Zhong also say, based on these studies, people of 1.03. However, this association didn't reach statistically significant. Yeah, that's another way. This is more neutral. You just say however, but that doesn't mean you strongly say no, there's no association. Well, comparing to Zhong, everyone probably will agree Feng's answer is actually more no association side. Any other answer or ideas?
Còn ai có câu cách viết khác không?
I'm open for more answers, so anyone who has a different way to say this. Oh.
So based on these studies, lung cancer mortality risk. Chị vẫn không tên chị, còn chị lại nhưng mà chị
lại mà phải đứng trên.
Based on this study, based on these studies, lung cancer mortality risk didn't raise in PCI resident in people living in PCI Yes.
Xin lỗi, chị nói lại.
Based on these studies, lung cancer mortality risk didn't raise among people living in the PIC comma and I will write the biofactor 1.3 and the 95% CR. I will, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Chị tên gì à? Yeah, it's very close to Feng's answer. That's good. Some other suggested answer, well, there are another way to say that. As you guys says, you already say that based on this study, people living in the PIC may not have a significantly higher lung cancer mortality risk than residents in non-PIC. That's exactly what you guys say. But more take back, you just say may not. The other way, based on this study, we did not find a strong evidence that people living in PIC may have a higher lung cancer risk. This is actually stronger. We did not find it. We don't see the evidence. So this is another way. See, based on this study, there is no higher lung cancer mortality risk for people living in the PIC. So the answer C is actually very, very strong. There's no higher lung cancer mortality risk. As you can say, for result like that, in fact, for any results, the answer and the interpretation is a spectrum. It could be like strongly believe to strongly disbelief, strongly agreement, strongly disagreement. It's a spectrum, and you can decide your position where you want to stand. In this case, they also take a very neutral position, conservative way. In fact, you can take a very strong position saying you don't believe the results. It's totally based on what? Based on your in-house discussion with your teammates, and based on how you want to develop your storyline. Because this is just the first paragraph. You are preparing your second and third in-depth discussion. You are telling a story. This is just the beginning. You just tell everyone your position. Then you will develop the story. Let me give you a more difficult task. Exercise 2. Let's change your position. What if you strongly believe the association? Even though the result is like that, you still strongly believe the association. How would you revise this one? Again, 3 minutes. We are jumping to the other side of the spectrum. What if you still believe the association? What will you say?
Bây giờ là rất tin luôn nha, chứ không phải là tin chút chút nha. Viết sao? Không, bây giờ nói chung là số liệu nó kệ đó, nhưng mà cái đây là câu màu. Nếu mình rất tin thì cái đoạn sau mình viết như thế nào? Không, cái đoạn này là chỉ đoạn màu thôi. Còn số đoạn sau nữa, nếu mà mình rất tin thì mình phải lý giải phía sau nữa. Ở đây thì mình từng câu một thôi. Trong cái bản gốc của thầy á, là hơi tinh tinh thôi. Cái bản này giờ thầy đang cho mình nhiều cái version, mình đang luyện biết thôi, nhưng cái bản gốc của nó sẽ là hơi những cái toán hóa. Ở đây mình đang giả dụ như mình strongly believe thì đây mình luyện kỹ năng viết thôi. Còn bản gốc của thầy là hơi tinh tinh thôi. Thực ra là xem bài câu viết thôi, cách nối từ. Là we strongly believe đó, mặc dù là nó còn nhỏ đó.
Any volunteer?
Thôi. Đó, để mình viết thôi chứ thực tế mình không như vì cái kết quả nó phải là 2 chấm mấy, 3 chấm mấy. Mình đang luyện viết cái sai. Sai. So it means that we, regardless the results, we just try to show off point of view that strongly believe. Because the result that's persuasive. See, this just 1.03. It's probably to say strongly believe.
Oh! I heard that someone just say like that. That's just say we just point out 1.03 without revealing the 95% confidence interval. Is that what you say?
Đó, thầy nói là cách ăn gian á, thì là bỏ cái độ công nghệ, bỏ cái phản nó đi thì nó nhìn cho thấy 1.3 là số dương.
Well, this is definitely not a good answer. I want to hear something more robust answer. For answers like that, everyone can expect there's a strong fight later. The reviewer or the editor will challenge this sentence. Drop dead, seriously. They were like, why you say that? And then they actually will point out, why didn't you put a 95%? Definitely not a good way, but any better way to say that, if you believe. Anyone who can help the class? Last chance. Anyone who want to say something about this? So the other way you can say is like this. Based on these heterogeneous studies, albeit not statistically significant, people living in the PIC is likely to have a higher lung cancer mortality risk than residency in non-PIC by factor blah, blah, blah. So the beauty of this one is you give a reason. You say based on these heterogeneous studies, you are hinting why there's no statistical significance. It's because there are a lot of studies from different ways and non-adjusted confounders. Basically, you provide a reason based on these heterogeneous studies. And another way to write this is the beauty of English. For those less important, put it at the first part of the sentence by not statistically significant. Then say something you think is important. People living in the PIC is likely to have. Put the important stuff at the bottom of the sentence. That will make the sentence, make the reader think that you believe the strong association. By saying the way like B, definitely stronger than the original one. The original one is like that. This is more neutral. This is a neutral way. B is more than neutral. You can clearly see the author believe the result. That's okay, right? And why taking the position is so important? Because this is your first paragraph of discussion, and then you are developing your story in the next few paragraphs. For time's sake, let me jump to the paragraph 2. Sorry, let me pause here a little bit. Is this very clear to everyone? Any questions here? Good. Paragraph 2. I need another volunteer to help us to read. Oh, come on, class. Có ai có thể giúp đỡ đọc đoạn này cho tất cả không?
Ai đọc nè. Thật ra những tập đọc đó chúng ta mới nắm được cái đoạn văn phải viết thế nào. Nhiều khi chúng ta học viết xong nó dễ viết lắm, tới lúc viết được là khó. Đọc là dễ nhất rồi. Rồi viết xong thôi. Đọc đi. Khi mình đọc từ là mình viết từ đâu đó. Rồi các bạn online có ai đọc không?
Me.
Thank you.
The scientific evidence of the study is sound and solid from several perspectives. First, the outcome variable was based on pathological samples and all the ICD-9. Individual data were obtained by linking to governmental database. Second, the large sample size equal to 2,017,365 and diverse populations. For example, by sex, ethnicities, and locations, make the pool estimate more representative and enhance the generalized stability. Third, by applying the random effect models, we were able to address the heterogeneity between studies and further reported the poor effects.
Thank you. That's very, very good. Thank you, Nhi. Giỏi quá. Question.
Thank
What
you.
is this paragraph about? Đoạn này là nói gì?
Talking about the strength of the paper.
Awesome. Thanks. Exactly. Tại sao? Why is that? Because the topic sentence says so. The first sentence say the scientific evidence of this study is sound and solid for several perspectives. So it's talking about what's the good part, what's the advantage of this study. This is strength paragraph. Then first is what, second is what, and then third is what. So exactly, this is a strength paragraph. Again, the strength does not equal to the significance. Significance is why this study is important. The strength is how good is this study. If we go back to our analogy of buying a car, the first paragraph significance is talking about why do you need to buy a car? Why buying a car is important. The second paragraph, the strength of the study, is saying how good is this car? This car has good engine, has good plates, has a good seat, has good music. The strength, the advantage of this car. The first paragraph is significance. Why do I need this car? Why this study is special? Why this study is very important? Because to our knowledge, it's the first study in Vietnam, the first study in Asia, the first study in the world, blah, blah, blah. That's why this is important. So the strength is totally not the same as the significance. So this paragraph is clear because the topic sentence already say sound and solid scientific evidence. And the next few sentences just list the arguments to describe the details of the strength of the study. Clear and easy. Paragraph 3. Well, sorry, I am clear, but I'm not sure. Does everyone okay? Is everyone okay with this paragraph? Yes. Paragraph 3. Next, anyone who help us to read. let's have two people because this is a long paragraph, right? So let's have two people to read this. Help me, help the class.
Đọc đi, ai đọc?
Anh Thảo Tiết.
Nhìn lên mình đứng với anh cạnh đọc thôi.
Okay, someone raise
Online.
online. Rồi ai giơ tay online đọc đi ạ.
Nào, để tôi giơ tay á, giơ lại dùm em. Anh đọc lên dùm em ạ.
Okay, I will read it. We found higher ancestral mortality risk among residents near PICs by a factor of 1.03. Although these errata are not reach statistical significance, the non-significance may be due to the following reasons. First, the definition of exposure varies slightly between studies. Most studies define the exposed based on the geographical locations or distances of residences from PIC, while one study compared the exposed group and reference group by matching job categories in PIC and non-PIC towns.
Rồi quá, thank you bác sĩ Tuyên. Next.
Okay. Can you hear me clearly, sir?
Yeah, pretty good.
Okay, thank you. Misclassification of exposure and non-exposure might exist and by the poor estimates toward the known. Second, the operation of PIC started as early as 1960s and some PIC are still in operations. Exposure to pollutant emitted from PIC might be quantitatively and qualitatively different in each period. Thus, although our subgroup analysis didn't show different risks for residents in different latency periods, still not everyone in the selected studies has sufficient latency periods or adequate follow-up periods. The estimations on latency periods for lung cancer diagnosis vary widely, but usually require approximate years to decades. Inadequate inclusion of residents with insufficient latency might bias the result toward the known in the original studies.
Thank you, John. That's very good. So what is this paragraph about?
In-depth discussion.
Exactly. So literally in depth, they are talking about what? Why we cannot, number one issue, why can we find a statistically significant result? The non-significant may be due to the following reason. So he wants to talk about this. Why is that? Because obviously this is the big backflow of this study, right? This is probably the biggest problem everyone can see. This is the elephant in the room. So everyone wants to know your attitude and why is that? So they pick up this most difficult one to answer. Well, it's not most difficult one. It's just everyone is looking for that. Everyone wants to see how you interpret it. So you need to discuss this. You cannot walk away and not explain why. So they want to do that. That's why I say it's a dialogue between the author and the buyer, reviewers. So yeah, we are curious. So I want you to explain why. So they explain why. They give you first, two, second, and third, give you three reasons. The beauty of that is that on the way they explain why, first, second, third, they also tell you a lot of side information. For example, they talk about exposure to pollutants emitted from PIC might be quantitatively and qualitatively different in each period, giving you more inspiring idea to talk about the figure 3 and the figure 6 in the future. So they actually feed you a lot of meat, give you more side information. So you know they will talk more in the future, in the next paragraph, I mean. So not just explain the non-significant result, but also give you a lot of in-depth discussion. So again, this third paragraph will be a real in-depth discussion. And the purpose of this in-depth discussion is to bring the readers into a detailed storyline and let them know more nuances of the work. They won't know more details. It's just exactly when you buy a car, you want to know more about the details of the car. That's exactly what you should have here. And in fact, an insightful discussion will stimulate readers to think more and approve the work after reading. That's your ultimate goal. You want them to approve this work and give you an approval. You can publish this paper, you can sell the car. So more insightful discussion actually help the readers think more and approve it. Let me continue this one. But when you write this paragraph, every argument and statements need to be stated and supported by evidence. To be very clear here, number one, first, the definition of exposure vary between studies. All those things should have appropriate citations. Like most study is defined while one study compare one. You need a citations here. You cannot just say whatever you like. No, you need to provide the citations. So again, don't make any comments based on your personal experience or guessing. And use the reference citation smartly. That's the key to write this paragraph. Again, the causality, everything, your flow, your storyline need to be super logic and convincing by all those citations, your references. Make your storyline very logic and convincing. An excellent storyteller makes a story very reasonable, even though there are many twists. The story go this way, go that way, but every reader follow your logic and go through those bumpy humpy smoothly. That's the key.
Hello, I'm there. May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, may I ask a question about in that discussion when you have some tendency to make improvements about the trend to be about the higher of people in the living peace or that in the non-peace. And you say it's at the different because the exposure variable and the starter earlier. Do you think we need to subgroup analysis with the group with exposure variable and the starter early or not?
Xin lỗi, tên An này. Dung An. Thank you, An Dung An. So Dung An is proposing a very good argument. Do you think just offer all those explanation enough, or do we need additional analysis? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Like subgroup analysis or like additional analysis or post hoc analysis? Do we need more analysis rather than just say 1, 2, 3 to adjust non-significant results? The answer is yes and no. The definite answer is, of course, it's way better to have additional analysis. And of course, the author want to do that. The only reason author cannot do it is because there is no data. They wish they can do it as well. There's no more data to support those arguments or do analysis from this 13 population or 7 papers in this meta-analysis. If they have additional data, they would rather to do that. They would like to do it. So most of the time, yeah, as a reviewer, I always challenge you, hey, can you do more analysis? Can you do one? And you can expect the author will respond, they want to, and this is a good idea, but because of one, they won't be able to do that. But that's true though, they cannot do it. That's an alternative. So keep in mind, if you can do something better, do it in the results method, supplementary table figures. For those who you cannot justify or you don't have data, well, fortunately and unfortunately, you have to put it in a discussion. That's actually the last way for you to fight back and to provide more insightful information. That's your chance. Unless you have more power, that you have a lot of data and you know what you do. Of course, it's way better just put in the results and supplementary table figures. Everyone want to do that, but it's actually, well, I'm not sure what exactly going on, but I highly guess that's why. I hope I answered your question. Good. All right. Any other questions? In this pair, if there's no question, I will continue. In this paragraph, it's actually the time if you want to compare to the other researchers. This is very, very common way for every scholars who write this paragraph, in-depth discussion. They like to compare their research with the others. But let me put it here, comparing your research with the others is a double-edged sword. Before we answer this question, should I compare? Is that a request, is a must-do to compare our study with the other? Let's clarify the purpose first. Why do you need to compare your result or your study with the others? Well, you can tell me, because I want to tell readers that the results of our study is reliable, right? My study is exactly the same thing as the lens say. Hey, stop here a little bit. When you say that, you just admitted your study is not the first study to your knowledge, right? You kind of just admit, my study is not that good. It's not the first one. Someone already did it. I'm the second, I'm the third one. I just do it. It's the first one in Asia, in Vietnam, in Miền Bắc, actually. It's actually not the first one. You are doing a Me Too study if you compare the other and show the same result, isn't it? Right? You are actually just telling everyone like you are doing a Me Too study. Well, on the other side, you are saying because your result is different from the previous one, and you want to explain why there is any difference between the two studies and why ours is better, right? There's only two cases, because your result is the same with the other, or your result is different from the other, either or. There's no in between. However, think about that. If your result is different from the other, you're actually trying to say your study is better than the other. Well, if it's worse, then why do you publish this one? We already have something in the literature body. Why do we need to publish this worse one? So you need to say yours is better. Then you need to say super careful, because that one you compare to is potentially be the reviewer. He is actually will be a reviewer to review this article that you compare, because you are in the same field talking about the same thing, and you say yours is better than his or hers. So it's like a double-edged sword. Do you really need to compare? So The right way to use a compare reference is actually to support your argument. Tell me exactly what you want to say first. What's the purpose you want to use the other study? To do what? To support your arguments. Focus on your arguments. Regardless, you need to compare with the others or not. That's the only way, the only time that you need to compare your study with the others. Nothing more, nothing less. And by the way, when you sell the car, you are selling a Toyota Camry. Do you really need to compare this one with Nissan or Mercedes or BMW? Do you really need to compare with the others? When you compare with the other, you are actually just advertise the others' work on your discussion. Your discussion only has 700 to 1,000 word limits, and you are using a paragraph to compare the others' work, to advertise the others' work. Why? Are you a salesman? You're selling your work, not the others. Let me be very clear here. I'm not saying you shouldn't compare with the other work. No, sometimes you should, you need to. But reflect yourself. What's the purpose of doing so? Why do I really need to compare? It's because I want someone, use someone's work to support my arguments. Use it as citing a reference. It's the same idea, same concept. When you cite a conference, you are using people's mouth to say what you want to express. That's exactly what you want to do. Sorry, let me have 10 more minutes, then we have a break. Let me extend 10 more minutes. We'll have 2 more paragraphs, and then we will be done. But before we jump to the limitations paragraph, any questions here? Is that clear for everyone? This is kind of very important because I know a lot of Vietnamese scholars, students need this paragraph, and they have a strong opposition. They really want to put a comparison paragraph. So I want to explain here. But is there any questions?
I have one question. Although we know that no need to advertise the other work, but when we write, how we can avoid that? Sometimes when we write, we will unconsciousness to say something, although to support our idea, but somehow we need to say what is the same, what is similarity, and what is different. And we need to explain why the point is different or why we have the same with others. So how to avoid this advertise of other words?
Really good point though. So we go back to this two, right? Either we are the same, then we are comparing, or we are different. So we want to point out why ours is different. Either we are the same or we are different, right? There is no in between, either or. It's actually better to have a different answer, because if it's the same, you are clearly showing this is a Me Too study. We are doing the same thing, exactly the same thing. And the other one is already published in, let's say, in NGHIêN. There's no need for my work. I'm doing the same thing. So actually, I prefer a different answer. Again, if it is a different answer, what's the purpose for citing or comparing to this study? You want to point out why those results are different, right? And hinting why ours is more robust, reliable, better. You actually are hinting this way. That the whole purpose you want to use them is that you want to point out this. Or if it's the same, you want to say, hey, the BMW car, the car BMW, have the same function as my Toyota's car. You kind of want to say that, right? You want to say, exactly, that's a, oh, you think the BMW, the Lancet one is a really good engine? No, they actually just do the same thing as my Toyota one. you actually want to say that. So again, you are salesman. The whole thing shouldn't focus on why ours is different, why this is different, and yours is bad, yours is worse, because he is potentially your reviewer. Instead, you should say, in our research, we further adjust ABC, and we also consider what and what, and that's why our result is different from yours. Emphasizing your work, ours is doing this, ours is doing that, and we also consider what, so that's why ours is different. Just say that, and then cite their paper. That's enough. That's it. 3 sentences. Sorry, 2-3 sentences. That's it. Is that clear? Yes.
May I ask another questions about to compare to other research? When we deeply compare to the other research, do you need to tell some information about the other research, about the population, about the location, about the Sau Đa, the research, the other research had the same condition with our research or not?
In most cases, no need. Unless this research is like super famous, like you really need to have like 2-3 sentences to describe that research at first. In most of the cases, you don't need to do that. Then how can you compare a difference? Well, you just point out directly the difference. For example, you think their result is worse because they didn't consider certain situation, or they didn't include children, they didn't include Asians. If that's your point, rather than pointing out their fault, just say directly in your work, our study further consider Asians, children, and that make the result significant. Just say that is enough, rather than pointing out the fault of the previous study. It's actually not a fault, it's just like they didn't consider different situation. That's it. Don't criticize the others directly, because they are potentially reviewers, and there's no need to criticize the others in your work. Just again, transfer and twist it as the strength of your study. Why you is better, you need to change to that way. All right. Sorry, give me 5 more minutes. Let me finalize the last 2 paragraphs. Especially the limitation paragraph is important too. For time's sake, let me read for everyone. There are some limitations to be neatly addressed when interpreting our results. First, now potential confounders were adjusted in the 7 articles, such as smoking, radiation exposure, meteorological factors, and the socioeconomic status. However, these unadjusted confounders pose an unknown or even lower risk of lung cancer to the exposure group compared to the reference group. For example, the smoking rate of exposure group was lower than reference group in Bopol and colleagues study. So basically, this is talking about a limitation. In the very first sentence, there are some limitation. First is what? And then give an example. So the first one is potential confounder, talking about potential confounders. So for time's sake, I will skip that. How can we write the limitations? Well, writing a limitation or identify limitation is totally not difficult. You can easily have 20, 30 limitations when you host in-house discussion. You say, hey, I can see clearly exposure measurement is a limitation. Another heterogeneity is a limitation of this study, blah, blah, blah. Every student can raise a hand and point out the limitations. But the harder part is to justify the limitation and lead to an insightful discussion. So how to do that? 4 things. This is actually will be the next class, we will talk about this. Topic sentence, develop sentence, example sentence, and conclusion. So number one, write down your limitation in a neutral and clear sentence. Sorry, give me a break here. Before you write this paragraph, please put a lot of effort in the in-house discussion. As I say, you have 20, 30, 40 limitations. I know this work has a lot of limitations, but please group them and summarize them into 2 to 5, 3 to 5 limitations. Don't list like 40, 30 limitations. No one can understand. Finalize and group them into 2, 3, 4 categories. That's it. That is confounding things, lack of latency in something. Please narrow down to 2, 3 groups. And then those are really, really important. That's really a serious bias in this study. Don't talk about there are a lot, but those are minor. Just talk about the major limitations. Then, once you are done that, for every limitations, number one, write a topic sentence. Write down a limitation in a very neutral and clear sentence. For example, here, you just say, not all potential confounders were adjusted in the selected articles. Very neutral. Everyone can understand this confounding issue. For example, smoking, radiant exposure, meteorological factors. That's it. Number two, develop it. Explain to the readers why this is a limitation and how it affects results. So because this limitation, those unadjusted confounders will bias the results, will overestimate the result or underestimate the results. Tell people why this is a limitation, because it affects the results, right? Then defense, that's the most important part in the limitation paragraph. Defense, this is actually give you a chance to defend yourself over a solid example or your defense. This is super important. Otherwise, after reviewer reading your limitation paragraph, I would just feel your Toyota sucks. Or your Toyota engine is bad, seat is bad, plate is bad, window is bad, everything is bad. No, you are a salesman. You shouldn't give the reader this impression. You are a successful salesman. No. What the salesman will say, although our engine is not as good as the BMW, but we have 1 and 1 watt. We also add 1 and 1 watt. We also give you 1 and 1 watt plus. Exactly. I think exactly Dong An just said, do you need a